Hey, Michelle, how's it going today? How are ya?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fantastic today. I have a question to start off the episode.
Okay. All right. I'm excited. What is it?
So, did your parents ever tell you about words that you might have mispronounced when you were a little kid, like silly things you said?
Yes, definitely. The first one that comes to mind is I really wanted my ears pierced when I was little,
Yep.
but I couldn't say earrings, so I called them eenies. So
Eenies.
I say, I want eenies. I want eenies.
That's
What?
very cute. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, eenies. So to this day, we still talk about eenies.
Oh,
And I was like, oh, you want eenies?
yeah.
So,
It becomes like family stories and shared
right.
culture, like a shared insider culture within your family, right?
It's true. What about you? Any funny ones?
Yeah, I used to say cower pitter. Cow so a lot of times kids have a hard time pronouncing the L sound,
Yeah.
right? So they'll
Yep.
make that "w" sound, that W sound, very common for kids,
Yes.
for
Yeah,
sure, yeah.
absolutely. So we're going to talk about this today. I'm really excited about this episode. This is pure fun, but it's also an incredible connection topic. So this is
It's
going
an
to be a huge episode.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about some things that kids mispronounce, but that's really not the point. The point is, how do you connect with other parents around these mispronunciations, right? How do you share this with other people, other parents? Because oftentimes I imagine, Michelle, as a mom or as your husband probably is often around other families and wanting to
Yeah.
connect with parents of other kids while your kids
Right.
are playing. Is that right?
Yeah, of course. So this is just it's so much fun to talk about these things when you're at the playground and you meet
Yeah.
another parent. But it's even if you don't have kids, you
Yeah.
were a kid, right? So
Yeah.
people this is a conversation topic that just comes up from time to time, even as
It does.
adults, even if you don't have kids. So don't think, "Oh, I don't have kids. I'm it's not
It's
about me
true.
today." You can still have these conversations and so you should be prepared for them because they're fun.
No, you're right. It actually does come up when if you're 20, 30, 40, connecting with friends over drinks,
Does.
it might come up. It totally
It's
does. So
it's
we're
true.
getting into it today. So guys, hit follow because here on All Ears English, we focus on connection, not perfection, and we look for the connection moment in every episode. And we're going to show
Yep.
you what it is today. So Michelle, could you read our question for a change? We'll do
Okay.
something a little different
Sure.
today.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'll mix that up. Okay.
Yeah.
This question is from Barbara. So it says, Dears, I'm Barbara from Treviso, a small city in the north of Italy, mom of two girls, 3 years and 7 months. Oh, wow. I bet Barbara's busy. I was wondering if you could answer my question. What are the most common words in English mangled by kids? That's a great word.
Whoa, excellent word.
A
Yeah.
really high level, yes. For example, in Italian, my daughter says trighe instead of tigre, which is
Tigre. Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
assuming I'm saying it right.
Yeah.
Which is tiger.
Mhm.
And maybe if you could add some details about kids' language, baby talk, etc., it would be great. Thanks a lot, Barbara. This is such a different question that is so much fun.
I love when we get slightly different, interesting questions that really do apply to our entire
Yes.
audience, even if you're not going to have kids or don't have kids. So let's go through a couple of the things first,
Yeah, yeah.
Michelle, that kids do mess up. I mean, they do mangle sometimes, by the way,
Manga.
fantastic word,
Yep,
right?
that's going to be a keyword for today.
Again, what does it mean? Just to
I mean,
define it again. Yeah.
to to mess up,
Destroy.
to destroy, to
It's
so
it's kind of an extreme form of messing up, right?
yeah,
Mangle, ruin, completely destroy
ruin.
certain
Yep,
words. Yeah.
absolutely. So to me, when I hear this, the first one that comes to mind, I don't know, Lindsay, if you've heard this, is instead of saying spaghetti, a lot of kids, including my kids, say
Mhm.
buschetti.
Yeah.
Have
Oh,
you heard that
yeah.
one?
Yeah, that definitely sounds familiar. That is
Buschetti.
something I feel I probably would have said as a kid, right? So we're
It's
just
tough. It's tough if
yeah.
you that spaghetti. It's a little bit of a toughie. So buschetti for a while until they learn spaghetti.
Mhm, and as I said earlier, the next one, the LW sound can get really confusing, right? So, let's see, what does your son say, Michelle?
Well, when he was little, instead of calling water water, he would sometimes say lauder or luddy. And yeah, or he had a
Interesting.
teacher named Gladys and he would call her Gladys.
Yeah, that's
But I loved the luddy thing because it didn't, I don't know how that came to be. But even
That's very
yeah, to
cute.
this day now he can say water, but we always will say Lodi. He would always come up to
Oh.
me, run up to me, more Lodi, more Lodi.
That's very cute. That's very cute. I love it. And then hand sanitizer, Michelle. Oh, they combine it. That is so smart. Actually, I love
Isn't
that. I
it? I
think it's
like it
the brand
too.
name. I might take that. So
Yep. So my son did this, but also I've been reading in other when I was doing research for this, I saw that this was a common one. Instead of saying hand sanitizer, they say hanitizer.
brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I maybe
Yeah.
feel that as a maybe start a company selling hand sanitizer one day. We'll see.
Yep. Yep. And then my daughter, she would have trouble saying the k, so she would make it a h. So she instead of saying come on, she would say hum on.
Oh, cute.
Um
Cute.
so those were cute ones. Any that you others that you remember, or maybe one for your
Oh,
niece, or you want to share?
I know there are some. I know there were others. The only one that comes to mind is the Caterpillar.
Yeah.
And there's another one, and I just can't think of it because there were two that my dad used to make fun of me for together, and I just can't think of the other one. So long ago, Michelle. Honestly. Oh,
Yeah. But these
yeah.
are, I mean, Lindsay, why do you think this is a good connection topic?
Well, because it's all about telling stories. Connection is about telling stories that someone else is going to relate to. And our
Yeah.
goal here is to be able to do that in English if we're living abroad or if we're just speaking in English with a native speaker. So that's what we're going to get into after the break, Michelle. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So we are back from the break and let's talk about how we could turn these little pieces into a connection moment, these little stories of
Yeah.
what your kids are saying or what
Right.
you used to say. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So we have a couple different contexts here. So the first one is to share about someone else.
Mhm.
So, Lindsay, could you give us the first example?
Yes. So we could say, my son or daughter or niece or nephew calls X Y. So, for example, my son calls spaghetti biscotti.
Okay. Right. So
Yeah. Yeah.
they
That's
call
also kind
X,
of cool.
Y. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Could be the name of
Um,
a dish somewhere at some silly Italian restaurant or something. Spaghetti
yeah,
biscotti.
but good. Yes, exactly, exactly. Or you could say it like this: my son, daughter, niece, nephew, whoever it is, a
Yeah.
child you have a connection with, says X instead of Y. So instead of calls XY, here we're saying says X instead of Y. So of course, X is the incorrect way and Y is the correct way. So for example, my daughter says sanitizer instead of hand sanitizer.
And it's very cute. I mean, these are the things that we love about our kids, our nieces and nephews, right? These are the little personality quirks that,
Mhm.
is so endearing, are very endearing.
Yeah,
But then we could also talk about ourselves, right?
right.
Which is interesting because this honestly does come up, Michelle, among friends.
It does. It does. So, Lindsay, what's one thing you could say about yourself?
So you could say, when I was a kid, I would say X instead of Y. It's interesting that we're using would there. What do we use would for instead of
Mm.
I said
Right.
X instead of Y? What do you think? What's the subtle difference grammatically speaking?
Yeah, instead of saying I said X
Yeah.
instead of Y.
Hmm.
I'm trying to think of why specifically we would do that. Lindsay, any
Yeah.
thoughts?
Well, it seems to me like it's you're talking about a habit that you had, something that you would
Ah,
do
right.
repetitively. If I said when I was a kid, I said X instead of Y, it actually does
Could have been
imply
once.
it's a habit, but it also could have been once. If I want to be very clear, it was a repetitive habit, I would say X instead of
Yeah,
Y.
right.
Yes.
Good
Hmm.
point. Okay, good. I'm glad that you brought that up. That's very good. So,
Yeah.
or another thing. Oh, so what's the example there?
Okay. So I think you better do that, Michelle, because
Okay,
that's
when I
yours.
was a kid, I would say eenies instead of earrings.
Nice, nice. I love it. And then next one, you could say, my parents told me I couldn't say the blank sound. So I
Mhm.
called X, Y.
Mhm.
Okay. So what does that look like, Michelle, in an example?
Okay, my parents told me I couldn't say the L sound, so I called my sister Laura Wara.
I'm not sure when that goes away. I don't know. We don't teach kids here at All Ears English, so we don't really know exactly when that goes away. But it's a good question. Do you have a
Oh,
sense? Michelle?
I mean, I would say I was trying to listen to how my son speaks. I think a lot of it has gone away, the LW specifically, but there are times when I'll hear still he'll be 6 in November, and there are times when I still hear a slight, incorrect pronunciation or something like that. But I would say 4 or 5 or when things
Yeah.
and it's so funny because it happens so suddenly. It happens all of a sudden. You realize one day, my daughter would say to me, "Hum on," and then all of a sudden she just said, "Come on, mommy." And
That's so cool.
there's this moment as a parent where you're so happy, like, wow, oh my gosh, you did it. And then there's also a little bit of sadness.
Oh, that's cool. That must be cool to watch that in real time happening, right?
Oh,
That
it's incredible.
change. I think so
Yeah.
many of our listeners are going to be able to relate to that. Wow.
Yeah, yeah,
Very
but there's a
cool.
little bit of, sometimes, so actually one that my son says, instead of, "Oh, I broke something," he would say, "I broke it," and he still says
Yeah.
it to this day, and I'll say, "Don't correct him, I like it," but then Dan says, "No, he's gonna be we have to
He's gonna
correct it."
yeah, he's gonna be in high school saying, "I
Yeah,
broke it."
right,
Yeah, no, we
exactly,
don't
"I
want that.
broke
We
it."
don't Yeah, you
Yeah,
probably do have to correct it. Yeah, probably. It's probably the best
I
thing.
know, but it's so cute.
But the cool thing about this is we can get nicknames that can come out of this, right? Or siblings could bond over maybe later in life you still call something a certain way, right?
Exactly. I mean,
Mhm.
even when I was little, my mom said that I would get on the phone with my grandparents and I would say, um, "Damma," that's what I called grandma, and I would
Ah,
say, "Wanna talk to Tampa a minute." So Gamma, Damma, and Tampa. So there are things that they just come up and you
yeah,
never forget them, and it's
yeah.
a part of your family history.
And maybe it becomes the name. We did an
Right.
episode, I think
Oh
you and I
yeah.
did that episode, right? About or was it Aubrey and I? I can never remember which ones you and I recorded or Aubrey and I. But anyways, there was an episode about what you call older people, your grandparents.
Yes, that was
Yes,
me.
you and I did that one together. And that could go into that too, right?
Yeah,
So Michelle, let's
right.
do a role play then about
Let's
how this
show.
looks. Yeah.
Okay, here we go. So, in this role play, sorry, I had to scroll down to it. We are talking about our kids. Okay.
Okay, here we go. Yes.
Okay. Stevie has started doing the funniest thing. He calls turtles furples.
That's adorable. Janie says papa instead of pasta.
Adorable. My parents told me I couldn't say the S sound, so I called my sister Steffi Teffy.
I love that. Very typical. And also, what it would look like if you're just talking about your own
Right.
weird habits as a kid would be very similar to this role play, right?
Yes. Yes,
Yes.
exactly.
Should we go back and take a look at it, Michelle?
Let's do it.
All right. So here, first thing you said was Stevie has started doing the funniest thing. That's an interesting way to open a conversation, and we could talk about that
Mhm.
another day on All Ears English, guys. Hit that follow button. But you
Mhm.
said he calls turtles furples. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. He calls X Y, right?
Mhm.
And then you said that's adorable. And then you said Janie says papa instead of pasta. So something instead of the correct thing.
Yeah, and then you said my parents told me I couldn't say the S sound, so I called my sister Stephanie Teffy. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's cute. That sounds very typical, right?
Yes.
Yes. Love it. Wow, good topic. Great question from our amazing listener. We love your questions, guys. Thank you to Barbara for that
Mhm.
question. Yeah.
Yeah, this has been a really fun one. And guys, if you want to listen to another really fun episode, we just did recently episode 2273. That was wacky English vocabulary for fun conversation. So after you
Yes.
finish with this one, go on over and listen to that one.
Well, Michelle, what do you think is the takeaway today for our listeners? Where should we leave them in terms of connection? What should we remember?
That this is all about storytelling, like you said in the
Ah,
beginning. This
yeah.
is not about, oh, I have kids, I can talk about this. If you don't
Yeah,
have kids, you can't relate. We all were kids at one point
of
in
course.
our lives.
Yeah.
So we've probably heard stories or remember things our friends used to say. And I think it just shows it's a very sweet topic. It's a very
Yeah.
childlike and very touching thing to talk about. It's that innocence of childhood that people connect with.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Michelle. That might be the key point there. Once we get into this topic, there's no reason we couldn't branch into other things that we remember fondly about being a kid, right? Because we're very different when we're
Yes.
kids than we're adults. Like
Yes.
we just have so many different ideas about the world when we're kids. And that right there, going into that kind of content could be really, really a bonding moment for whoever
Yep.
you're talking with, right?
Right. Absolutely.
Yes.
So I mean,
Mhm.
I know I could just continue talking about it and talking about it. Of course,
Yeah.
it'd be fun to hear. It's just it's a definitely a great connection skill. So and if you want to hear more ideas of things to talk about with your kids or things you can share, definitely send us an email or comment
Mhm.
on the YouTube video wherever you listen. We are happy to take your questions. So let us
Yeah.
know.
And I would say just guys take a risk of branching out beyond the typical topics that you learn in class, which is what are your hobbies,
Yeah.
right? What is your job? Like, this gets boring after a while.
Yes.
Let's take a risk and open up something kind of quirky, right? This
Yeah.
is inevitably very quirky, but it's how we find that deeper bond of connection in English. I love
Yep.
that.
Love
Wow.
it. Well, thank you, Barbara, for that question. And thanks for chatting about this with me today, Lindsay.
All right, Michelle, I'll talk to you very soon. Have a good
All
one.
right. All right. You too. Bye.
Bye.